Hello all and welcome to today's video. My name is John McFall and I want to welcome you to the McFallRI channel where I teach you how to make that $25 to $30 an hour doing food delivery, and I also teach you how to make semi-passive income. Today I want to talk to you about driver support when it comes to DoorDash and Uber Eats. Some of this will apply to GrubHub, but I had two situations last night that happened, one on DoorDash and one on Uber Eats, that I kind of want to talk to you about and kind of talk about how the platforms take care of driver care. Before we get into the topic, I do want to remind you that down here in my description, I have some great tools for you guys, and this is the Beans app and SimplyWise and QuickBooks Self-Employed. These are some great tools that you guys can use when you're doing food delivery to help you do better and to help you manage the stuff around food delivery. So go check them out. Also want to tell you about my metric spreadsheet. If you haven't downloaded it yet, I do not know what you're waiting for. I'm going to throw it up here on the screen real quick so you guys can take a quick look at it. If you look on the left-hand side, you're going to see that I always put my start time and my end time. This gives me the total time that I've worked. I also put in the miles, and then for each individual app, I also put in the dollars that I've made, the time that I worked, and the number of deliveries. Head to the bottom and you'll see it calculates out what your average dollar per hour, dollar per mile, along with your average per delivery. If you want to know how well you're doing when you're out here doing food delivery, the only way that you can know is to keep track of your numbers. Keeping track of your numbers will show you where you are and show you where you need to improve, so you can tweak what you're doing when you're out here so that you can make more money. And with that, let's get into the topic. So I worked a couple hour shift last night during dinner in Auburn, Indiana. And when I was out here doing these food deliveries last night, I had two situations happen when I was out there. One was the very first order I got from DoorDash. The other was the last order I received, and this was from Uber Eats. I want to kind of break down to you what those situations were and how the platforms handled them. They're not really related specifically, as they were the exact same situation for both. However, I had to involve driver care in the situations, and they were completely opposite when it came to how they resolved the issue. I've talked about working in Auburn a lot in my videos over the past almost year. One thing I talk about all the time when I work in Auburn, Indiana, is I have to change my strategy compared to the way I do Fort Wayne, Indiana. When I am in Auburn, Indiana, I usually will take anywhere from $5 to about $8 on the orders that they send me, because this is what Auburn offers me. So when I see a $7 or an $8 order in Auburn, this is really good because you don't see a whole lot there. The caveat to that is I can still make my $25 to $30 an hour because I take deliveries that are only going to take me a mile to 3 miles. So I can get in about 5 or 6 deliveries in an hour using this strategy. So anyway, last night I was logged into DoorDash. I was on my way into the hot zone that I work there, the only hot zone, and I got an order request from DoorDash. It was $7.50. It was for 2.9 miles, so of course I jumped on that. I got to the restaurant. When I walked in, I told them I was there with DoorDash. The anticipated pickup time was at 6:12 p.m. When I walked in the door, it was about 6:04, so I knew that they probably weren't done with the order. Completely expected this, and I was okay with that. Well, when I got into the restaurant, talked to the hostess at the counter, she said, "I'm sorry, but it's going to be about 15 or 20 minutes before your order is going to be ready." And I was like, really? So what I ended up doing is I ended up pulling up the DoorDash driver support chat, and one of the problems is that when I got onto the chat, I was number 326 in line to get into a chat with a driver representative. So I ended up sitting in my truck and I waited probably about 4 or 5 minutes. Mind you, I drove to the restaurant. I went into the restaurant, and then by the time I got back out into my truck and got an actual driver care representative on the phone, I had literally been there 10 minutes already. So when I got driver care on the phone, I told them the situation, that the restaurant said that it was going to take another 15 to 20 minutes beyond the time that I had already been there. I also told them that the order was only $7.50, and if I waited for this order, that means that it would be $7.50, and it was going to end up being about a 35 to 40 minute delivery. So here's what happened. When I was on the chat with the driver representative, they told me that they apologized for the situation and that I should make sure that I text the customer and inform them that the order is taking longer to get done, and just simply sit there and wait another 15 or 20 minutes for the order to get done and then take the delivery. That was problem number one. I told the driver care representative that, that's all fine and dandy. I can get in touch with the customer and let them know that it's going to take longer. However, I am not going to sit here and wait for another 15 or 20 minutes when they are paying me only $7.50 for this order. I told the representative that if DoorDash wanted to compensate me for the extra time, that I would be willing to sit there and wait, but that was just not enough money to make it worth my dollars per hour to sit there and wait for it. The representative, then they proceeded to tell me that they understood that and my ratings wouldn't be affected and I wouldn't get a contact violation because I had to wait so long for the order to be prepared. Point being is that the driver representative at DoorDash took nothing into consideration about what I was trying to explain to them, which was specifically the dollars per hour, and they only focused on the customer and DoorDash. They didn't give a shit about me and what my situation was and the fact that I had to be out there waiting and getting no more pay for the extra time that I was sitting there. So what I ended up doing is I ended the conversation with the guy. I ended up canceling the order, and I went on and picked up an order somewhere else. The problem I have with this whole situation, though, is the fact that I was screwed no matter what choice I made in this situation. First off, if I sat there and waited for the order and they were not going to compensate me anymore for that extra time that I was out there, I would not make the dollars per hour that I wanted to make and needed to make it even worth my while. So I was screwed if I sat there because I wouldn't get compensated anymore for that time. The second problem was I was screwed if I decided to get the order back, because given the situation, DoorDash should have said to me that I am so sorry for the wait. We will either compensate you more or we will take this order off of your responsibility and what you need to do, and we will not penalize you for it. If I gave the order back on the platform, then I would take a ding on my completion rating. So whether I sat there and waited on the order to get done or I gave the order back, I got penalized, and it was completely something that was out of my control and something I could not do anything about, but yet I got penalized for it. The next situation ended up being the last order of the night that I accepted. This was an Uber Eats order that I accepted from a restaurant, and it was $9.84. It was going, I think it was 3.8 miles total, and this was a really good offer from Uber Eats that I accepted. Well, when I got to the restaurant to pick up the order, I went through the drive-thru because the lobby is not open in this particular restaurant right now, and I pushed the button to speak to somebody inside of the restaurant, and nobody answered when I pushed the button. Pushed the button again, thinking maybe that somebody didn't see that I was there, and nobody answered. I drove around to the drive-through window, and there was one gentleman that was standing inside of the restaurant, and he had the tills out on the counter, and he was counting money, and I honked my horn. Guy came to the window. I told him I was there to pick up an order for Uber Eats, and he told me, "I'm sorry, but we've already closed for the evening, and we cannot get the order complete." So I ended up going onto the platform, and I pushed the button that said there's a problem, and I scrolled down. I picked that the restaurant was closed and hit the button that said the restaurant was closed. That's all I had to do. Well, when I got done and got home, I actually got an email from Uber Eats that says, "We are sorry that we sent you for an order and the restaurant was closed. We're going to give you $3 for driving to that restaurant, and we apologize for the inconvenience." So there were two different situations on two different platforms, and I want to stress to you how the platforms handled the situation when it came to me and how I was affected by the situations. Both of them were completely out of my control. DoorDash, on the one hand, they didn't care about me, they didn't care about my time, they didn't care about the dollars that I was getting, and they didn't even really listen to me when I was talking to them, because every time I tried to stress the point that it was out of my control and the money that they were giving me for that time wasn't worth it, they didn't even really acknowledge it. On the other hand, Uber Eats, I was a half a mile away from the restaurant when I accepted it. I drove to the restaurant, I clicked it, the order was not going to be able to be complete because the restaurant was closed. I clicked a couple of buttons and that was it, and they gave me $3 for making the effort to go pick up that order. So my point in this video is, sometimes you have got to take licks when you are out here doing food delivery. And sometimes the platforms do not care about you and your situation at all. I am very frustrated with DoorDash because they didn't even care about my situation and basically blamed it off on policy. We can't give you any extra money because there is a policy in place that says that we can't, even though the restaurant is the one that is causing the problem, and you have to spend a lot more extra time, which is going to cost you dollars when you are out there. We don't care about it. Uber, on the other hand, they took care of me better than I really expected. I went to the restaurant to pick up the order, it wasn't ready, and they compensated me, at least gave me something for the time that I took to go to the restaurant to find this out. So I want to, stress to you that these platforms, sometimes it seems like they care for us, and other times it seems like they don't give a shit about us at all. No matter if it is in your control or not, the platform can penalize you. So you're going to have to take some licks that are completely out of your control sometime. And this is very discouraging for people that work on these food delivery platforms. DoorDash should have either compensated me for the extra time, or they should have removed that order from me and let me move on so I could go out there and try to find more money for myself without having to take a ding on my completion rating. And this is completely unfair. So I hope you got a lot out of today's video, and I want to say thank you for watching my video, but remind you, head down into my description, go grab Beans app and SimplyWise and QuickBooks Self-Employed. Also go grab my metric spreadsheet so that you can improve the income that you're making when you're out here. I'd like to ask you to like this video and to subscribe to my channel. And with that, I'm going to say I hope that you are out there getting the money that you and your family deserve. And with that, I want to say thanks.